I want to start out by saying that I have a moderator in my Facebook group, Sasha, and she is incredible at fitting. And during the week, I was having a crazy week last week, and someone asked for help to fit her leggings. And she jumped right in and said, I think you'd benefit from a posterior pelvic tilt adjustment. Before I could get to it myself, she went right in there and she did an amazing step-by-step tutorial showing how to adjust for this, and the results were amazing. So I'm super excited that I have such wonderful moderators in my group, and I want to share this adjustment with you because I went searching for a posterior pelvic tilt tutorial. First of all, I was surprised I had not done one yet. And then also, I really couldn't find a good one to post in the group because I didn't have one. So we're going to have one now. And the thing about posterior pelvic tilt is that it's not as easy to spot as the tilted waist that I share, or the anterior tilted waist or pelvis that I share on my channel already. So it's very common to see the anterior pelvic tilt, or a forward tilting waistline is what's the visible part of this, because you can see it and it's where your waistband sits and it's very obvious. The posterior pelvic tilt is a little bit different because what happens is your pelvis is tilting backwards in your body a little bit, and what it does is it causes everything to shift back a little bit. So if you look at this illustration that I drew in Illustrator, I was trying to show a side view of the skeleton and the pelvis, and you can see what happens is if your pelvis is tilting backwards, it straightens the curve of your lower back and it kind of pushes your behind lower. And then in the front, what can happen is it can sort of thrust your upper front thigh out a little bit. Not always, but it could. So in looking at the members' photos in the group, if you looked quick, you could say to yourself, oh, you need a prominent front thigh and a low butt adjustment. But when you look closer, the way you can tell if that's actually the case is to look at the side seam. If the side seam is not pulling forward, meaning you don't have enough room across the front of your leg, indicating a prominent front thigh, then the issue may in fact be a posterior pelvic tilt. So from the side view, we can see her back has a very low curve, and there isn't as much curve in the small of her back. The side seam is straight, and it doesn't look like the front thigh is pulling. Now, where do we see the issue caused by the posterior tilted pelvis is when you look in the front, and you can see in the front she has wrinkles along the front crotch, and that's what we were trying to figure out. The reason why those wrinkles are there is because there's too much length in the front, and the curve in the back is not low enough to accommodate the shape because the pelvis is tilting to the back and everything is pushed down into the back. So I'm going to show you how to do the posterior tilted pelvis adjustment now. But in addition to that, I am so excited about the way Sasha showed how to change the shape of the crotch. I know a lot of people, when I'm teaching pants fitting, either in person or online, always have trouble reshaping a crotch if they want to scoop it or change the shape of it. So this is a method that you can use where you're actually moving the curve of the original pattern without having to redraw it yourself. And I anticipate using this method of changing the shape of the crotch for other things besides just this posterior pelvic tilt. So in front of me here, I have a front and back leg. Usually when I show you how to make adjustments, I line them up like this, okay, so I can see my crotch. And in fact, I've actually, cut out the base of the crotch to reshape it to pick up the front crotch if it's too low, for example. So this is just another version of, you know, cutting out the section you want to change. And I think it's brilliant. But in order to do it, you have to align your pieces like this so that they're parallel to each other and the tips of the crotch are going to be touching. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to shorten the front a little bit and we're going to lengthen the back a little bit because everything is shifting to the back when the pelvis tilts to the back. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to measure. Let's deal with the front first. So let's just take a 1/4 inch off. So I'm going to take a 1/4 inch. And of course, this is something you'll have to play with, you know, depending on how much your pelvis is rotating to the back. But a 1/4 inch is a good starting point, especially on this small size pattern. And I'm basically going to just use my French curve to trim that off, or draw a line so I can trim it off like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. Okay, and then in the back, we need to lengthen a little bit. So to lengthen, what I'm going to do here is, in the spirit of not having to change or redraw your shapes, if I extend the tip of the back crotch, I'm going to have to redraw my inseam. So I'm going to do it within the pattern, just so we don't have to redraw anything ourselves. So I'm just going to go ahead and make myself a little guideline like this. Okay, and then I'm going to slash it like this. I'm going to make a pivot down here at the, you know, inseam edge, and I'm just going to push this out just this little bit. And now that I've got this part done, I'm going to leave this flapping for now because I want to get all the cutting done, and then I'm going to put a piece of paper underneath the whole thing to make it neat and tidy. So I'm just going to leave this here, but just know we're going to lengthen this a little bit by pushing that out just a little bit. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to line up my pattern pieces so they are level with each other like this, and they are parallel to each other. So I'm using the lines on my cutting mat to make sure that the pieces are parallel and straight on grain. And I'm going to draw 2 guidelines. The first guideline I'm going to draw is crotch level, and I'm just going to use some of my sew tights here to make sure nothing moves. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw right at crotch level. Oops. If I was using my ruler that went with my magnetic cutting system here, it wouldn't slide. All right, here we go. Here's my first line. Okay. Now, what I want to do here is I want to capture the shape of the crotch curve. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my second line so that the space between the 2 lines is capturing my crotch curves. So basically, I think I'm going to do, for this little pattern, I'm going to do just a little bit, like 1 inch and almost 1/8. On a full-size pattern, this will be wider because, again, you want to capture this whole area in here. So you want to capture, you know, this shape right here, and you want to capture this shape right here. All right. So what I'm going to do now is, oh, I see my issue. All right. All right, so I have to do this first, and I'm not going to redo. Let me just start this. Let me just put some paper here. I thought I could do it all at once to make it super neat and tidy, but you can't. So do what I'm doing, not what I said in the beginning. Hold on. All right, I'm sorry about that. Let me just put some paper right here, and let me extend this out. All right, so you need to get this done first. So here I have my little, you know, extending my crotch out. I'm going to tape that into place. All right. Okay. All right, so I've got that in place, and I'm going to clean it up by trimming off all the extra here. Okay. All right, so you have to do that first because I need this to be attached when I do it, because otherwise I'll cut off that little nub right there. So sorry about that. But basically now what I want to do is I want to have them parallel, and I want to just put a little piece of tape. So let me just get this all nice and straight again. Oops, let me back it up a little bit. Okay. All right, so I want to put a little piece of tape before I cut out this section. I'm going to put a piece of tape here because I want to hold these parallel with each other. All right, so now that I've got tape there, I'm going to cut these out. You can see why I had to extend the front crotch first. Let me just cut these little pieces out. Like this. Okay, and then I'm going to take this little strip and I'm just going to put it off to the side for a second. And then I don't want to move anything. I want to keep this all stable, and this is why I love my So Tight's magnetic cutting system, because now I can just pick up the pattern pieces, and I'm going to put paper under here, but I've got it, you know, kind of nailed down. And actually I want to get this all the way up here like that. So I'm just going to shove this paper all the way there, and then I can pick up these bottom pieces and I can stick the paper under there. That's probably way too much paper. Let me just cut some of this off. Okay. All right, so now you can see I haven't moved anything, and I want to just double check. So let me just put this back to show you. Okay, nothing has changed yet. Okay, everything is still right where I put it. Okay, so I'm going to remove this again. Okay, and basically now, the fact that I have this little section connected means that I can tilt it together all in one step. And this is what I'm finding very, very cool. And I want to give Sasha gold stars across the board for this. This is so clever. I'm going to keep the crotch tips where they are, and I'm just going to lower the back and raise the front a little bit. Now, again, this is going to be something you'll have to play with because it's going to depend on how far back your pelvis is tilting. Okay, so I'm just going to do it this much right here. Okay, now you're noticing what's happening is the front crotch is coming forward and it's pointing down more. Okay, so it's doing the kind of thing where it's, let me just put So Tight's here and here so nothing moves, but it's basically coming more down like this, and then you'll notice the crotch is also going down. Okay, so it's lower than it was. And like I said, this is something you're going to have to play with. But basically what I've done is I've rotated the base of the crotch to the back, like your pelvis is doing. So now, to finish this off, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put a little bit of tape. I'm just going to tape these on like this. Now, obviously, I don't need all of this here. I'm just going to leave that for now. And I'm going to tape my, my top edge and my bottom edge to this extra paper that I have so nothing moves now that I've made this adjustment. And of course, if you don't have this magnetic cutting mat, you can tape all this down before you do the tilting. But basically, you want to secure all of this paper under here. And, I don't need all of this. I'm just going to cut this off just to tidy it up here a little bit so it's not sticking off the end. Okay, but basically, I'm leaving this here so you can see what I did. All right, so it's all taped on. Nice and neat. And what we're going to do here is we're literally going to redraw our center front and center back. Now, if you have a defined waist, meaning your waist is smaller than your hip, you can angle the center front right into the original waist like this. And I'm going to do it with a blue color so you can see. So you're reconnecting the crotch to your original waist. If you're a rectangle shape and you don't want to force a curve in your front waistband, then you can make it parallel, and I'll do that in pink so you can see the difference, like this. Okay, so this would be for, you know, rectangle shape, pink, and then this would be if you have a defined waist. Okay, and I don't know if you're doing this to fix leggings, I don't know if that's super critical because it stretches and it probably would be fine just to connect it here. But if you're using this adjustment to fix your pants, especially non-stretch pants, I would make sure you either, you know, make a defined waist to create a little dart or make it straight so it doesn't create the curve in the front waistband. Now in the back, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to connect the new position of the crotch to the original position of the waist like this. Okay. So you can see what we've done is we've minused some here and we've plussed some here. Okay. So we're shifting the room that you need to the back as well because everything is shifting to the back. So this is how you create a better shape if you have a posterior pelvic tilt. And check the before and afters here. So here is what the leggings look like now. Notice that there isn't any wrinkling going on there. We talked about maybe creating a little bit deeper of a scoop in the back, just a little bit more. But basically, there's a huge difference between how these leggings looked before she made this adjustment and after. So here they are side by side. I think that is so cool to see the results, and I'm very excited to share. One of my members was like, oh my goodness, you have to do a tutorial. So here it is, and I will be using the technique of cutting out the crotch to do other things. And right out of the gate, you can see that this would be a really good way to adjust your pattern for a low butt as well. So I think this is an amazing way to do it because you're not redrawing anything yourself, and you keep everything nice and even because you're tilting both pieces equally because they're attached. I just thought this is a really cool thing to share, and I hope this can help you in your pants fitting. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below and I will help you. If you're enjoying my content, consider liking and subscribing to my channel because it helps me grow. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch. Have a wonderful rest of your day.